So the theme of today's lesson will be move first, think later. Basically, I want us to try a new approach to on how to think in chess. And one time my former coach recommended to me a book with a cool name called Move First, Think Later.
Hmm.
And I was skeptical at first of what this could mean, but ultimately I read some of it and it gave some insights into that we're going to see today. So to make it interactive, we will just learn these themes through the examples. And for the first time in probably all of our lessons, I want you, when you see a position, I want you to not give me the general features of the position, but rather your moves and reasoning first, and only later back it up with general principles. So, what do you think of this theme, and what do you think of the position?
Wow. The theme is super interesting. Very unusual approach. It not to compare it with talk first, think later, because this can go horribly wrong in many situations. I suggest to always think first and then talk, or not always, but often enough. I like the idea of moving first because, of course, for chess reasons, this is interesting. It says, what's your intuition? And that, of course, plays a lot of roles in various chess positions. So often enough, a first intuition is not so bad because it's about pattern recognition after all. My first move here is knight f5 check.
Yes, so that's exactly how your thought process is usually supposed to go. Knight f5 moves actually wins as well.
Oh, okay.
And but the thing is, after takes, you probably see a move like b takes a4 as well,
I do.
and you think a little bit unpleasant. So here, if you do get to this position, it would be good to see the follow-up. And there's a few follow-ups that are a bit hard. For example, one of them is rook c3.
Wow.
So
I
that
like it.
so that after they take the bishop, you can, well, you can play just rook c7 as well, but rook f3 is an extra cool idea that you can also use to win the bishop and the pawn on f7.
Hmm.
But knight f5 maybe would be the first instinct. It was mine as well. But there is also one more that is a pretty good move.
Well, um, I mean, rook c3 is very tempting, but maybe it is too slow here. So
Yeah,
another idea might be, if I don't have to think about it, I would have gone h5.
h5. Okay, so just to close down that side of the board,
Yeah.
that makes sense positionally. That definitely makes sense positionally, but this position is actually very, very fast paced. So the immediate thing that could be a weakness that you can focus on is d6.
Yeah, I thought about it, but oh, wait, no, that's not working. So bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, and of course we have this beautiful knight
So yeah, the king
fork.
cannot take,
Yeah,
but this one,
so it's a check on f5, bishop takes, queen takes, and is it enough with rook c6? So how about rook c6 first?
yeah, that's exactly a good thought process. So if this, then definitely your knight f5 idea will win the queen and win the rest of the game. There is one more thing like e4
Oh,
to consider, and black could be fine, but eventually there are some reasons why white is winning this game, but it's not like simple, I would say. It's not a simple win by any means.
okay.
So when you see these variations, you instantly like see some of the follow-ups. Some of them you don't see right away, but you get some sort of intuition and whether a position is really good or kind of good, but you don't see the follow-up and everything. So those were all very, very good. So finally, what move would you play, and did any new moves come to mind as you were looking at it?
Um, Another idea could be to go knight g4 to give some other variants.
It's quite similar to knight f5, so yeah, because it would probably get taken. But yeah, so basically you found like knight f5 is winning, bishop d6 with rook c6 is also winning. All of these are great. But if you wanted to know the fastest way,
Oh, there's an even better way. Oh, wow.
after which black resigned right away,
Well, what is it? I don't know.
it's a move you've named before, which is why I thought maybe
Ah, rook c6.
you would also see it because you saw it in a previous
Yeah.
line where it was harder. So rook c6. So now I just basically why this position is interesting, and there's many solutions, and if you find any of them, it works. But I think a lot of books and exercises are written with a notion that these are the characteristics of the positions, and this is why move XYZ is right. But in reality, in a real game, you never think that way. You go straight into calculating, oh, knight f5 looks really good, or oh, rook c6 looks really good. And you don't think about these characteristics of the position, and the author argues that that's the right approach because you cannot have a meaningful characteristic if it's not connected to a specific move. So, for example,
Hmm.
the f5 square is not weak if none of your pieces can go there, or the d6 pawn is not weak if nobody can attack it. So, that's kind of how it goes, and he's saying that it's much more worth it to train pattern recognition than get too caught up in these general principles. But that's why if Knight of Five came first to mind and you think the continuation is good, you should definitely play it. But I think once you do see Rook C6, it's kind of the fanciest win. And all you need to see is that Knight D5 is a crushing idea. And
Ah.
you don't even need to see Black's follow-up because there's no like there's nothing much to see as long
Mm.
as you just recognize like what knight d5 threatens.
Yeah.
And yeah, the game ended after that, and it's because no matter if the bishop moves, there's even things like c7 to follow up knight d5. So in this lesson, I want us to first think of options and only then justify them with our logic on why they're right, which is what you did, and you went through the exact thought process that I think anybody would go through.
Hmm.
So we'll do
Fantastic.
that instead of the other way around. So this fragment appeared in many books, and there are a few instructive things about it. So let's start with you and the viewers at home as well. Just move first and think later. What do you think you would play?
Queen h7, of course.
Oh, right. And then King h7?
The rook g4.
That
Threatening
is super
checkmate.
cool. That is super cool, but I do think Queen h5 kind of stops that.
That's sad. Okay, what about rook takes g7 instead?
hmm I think for the attacking player, that's the first move that should come to mind. So let's look at Rook G7, King G7.
Then we go to. Oh, here we go. I have it now.
Yeah.
Bishop h6 check.
Yep.
Bishop g7 check.
Oh, you want to go like that?
That was
Well,
my
the king
idea.
is going to take again, so okay.
Ah, yeah, it's not working. Damn.
No, like it's the right
Yeah,
idea. It's just that like
yeah,
you'd
yeah.
rather keep the bishop as an attacking piece.
Absolutely. Rook g1 instead.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we will win precious material.
Yeah. And that is actually like perfect. What you just calculated. This is where you would maybe evaluate the position that, okay, I have a really good attack. There's all these threats. The opponent can think about how to defend against them because I don't think they're getting out of it. I think that's exactly the thought process you should go through once you see Rook G7. And yeah, based on your intuition, you can say that this is winning, and that would be right. So there's not too many good ways to defend on G7. If you play with a rook there, well, then we can even have a beautiful Queen
Ooh.
F6 um, final move. But if something like queen e7, it makes the job a bit harder because now bishop here is not as good. There's too much material that black has for it.
Hmm.
So instead, queen to g3, and that's basically it. You're now just threatening this.
Okay.
There's no good way to defend against it, and you'll play bishop f6 later. So perfect. That was the first one. And I don't know if anybody watching found the move that first came to mind to me, because the first move that came to mind for me was actually not rook g7 at all. And I think it's because I look at a lot of these sort of like book-like examples, and it was bishop to d1, which wins too.
What? Wow.
And it's the type of move that any chess coach
Oh.
is going to love because it's an instructive bishop repositioning. It's you save your really good bishop from this awful knight on a5, and he's going to come here and be super, super useful on in the attack. So the thing is though, when something like rook g7 is there, that's probably much better and much faster. But this is sort of the risk-free attack. So really
Hmm.
depending on your style, if that's the first move that came to mind for you and you see that the position is good, you should probably play that rather than spend 25 minutes trying to make rook g7 work if it's somehow not clicking.
Super
And
interesting.
same thing in the opposite. If you saw rook g7 and it worked, who needs bishop d1? So same thing. That's what actually happened in the game, and with it ended up like this with rook to g4, which was your initial move, and there was an elegant finish with bishop to f7, threatening queen
Oh,
h7,
cute.
which is what you wanted to do right away.
Yes.
Um, so black tried to prevent it, but it just was not
Too
possible.
late.
It just was not possible because of this. So I think the moral of the story of this whole lesson and also of this example is that when you see a good move, you should just play it. No, like, no matter what, um, like, if you are sure that the follow-up to it is pretty good and you're happy with it. And I think that quote was said by Capablanca. If you see a good move, play it. And that's also very accurate for online chess, I feel even more. Another concept that that book, Move First, Think Later, talks about is sometimes in some positions, you do a bit of trial and error. So when you see a position that feels like something should work, you just have to look for the right move through a few trials.
Mhm.
So what do you think about this one?
I immediately thought of knight f6 check and then followed up by knight h5.
Hmm. That's really good. So you immediately see that this king is in trouble. So like this, knight h5. What about just queen coming back though?
Yeah, doesn't work. But I'm just
Yeah.
wanted to be honest with my move thoughts, what I was thinking about first. But what would happen if we would play knight h5 first and then knight f6? I think this is actually working.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a better version of it.
So you
The
gave
queen.
the exact example of what you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. You tried a few moves. Maybe you could also, yeah. This is the solution. And it's
Yeah.
pretty simple. It's probably the simplest one for the day, but you can also try knight g5. You see that it's kind of attacking there, but after queen g7, you look at this position and you're like, "Oh, I'm actually down in exchange, so maybe not."
Mhm.
But, that wouldn't happen in a real game because you would know it. But exactly it, when you know there's something there, you just try the same tactics that you're wanting to work, but just a bit differently, and maybe it'll work that time. So that sometimes you need to just know a few of these plans, like a few of these concepts, and recognize that king formation, that it's weak, and that it's, and where you're trying to checkmate, and then it sort of comes easier. Okay, good. I think I have two more. So
Oh yeah, by
this
the
is
way, I
the
have to quickly mention, sorry, if you see some black flickering, it just happens. Something's wrong with my graphic card, apparently, but it just happens like occasionally. So we just continue with that.
okay. Hopefully, hopefully it works in the end. Um, so. this one we're looking from the black side. And the question is, what do you do here?
Hmm. That looks like a opening theory still. Well. There is an idea of breaking through on e5, but that is going to. It doesn't look like it's working well to me. Oh, well, actually, there are enough defenders. Hmm. So, well, I should move, right? Yeah, I said e5. I will do that.
You would do e5? Yeah, so that's one of the most to consider, but it's not the best one because after all of these trades, white's pieces are just a bit more ready for this type of
Uh-huh.
central battle, and there is a tactic that comes with knight to d5 and then bishop to
Unpleasant.
c4. So you do end up losing the d5 pawn, and the position is not as solid anymore, and white probably wins that pawn.
All
Anything else
right.
came to mind?
Then we have to try. Yeah, the other move I had in mind was queen e8
Mm-hmm.
with the plan to go to
Yes.
h5, reposition it better. Again, very attacking, of course, but that's probably my instinct.
Really, really close. So,
Oh,
do you have any experience in the French?
nothing.
So that might be why, because I think somebody who has played the French before is going to find the right move without even having to think about it.
Oh, that would be interesting to know. If you
The
are a
move is
French
bishop
player at
to
home.
e8. It's just a common French thing that the bishop would go there, maybe in a few other openings as well. I'm not sure. So, um, I feel like Bishop e8, if you were to come up with it, you can argue that like you had all sorts of logic behind it, that this bishop was stuck behind these pawns, or you noticed that this knight was weak and that's why you wanted to reposition it. But the author says that you just find it because that's a pattern you've seen before, and it just naturally came, and only then you justified it. So not the other way around, where the bishop was on a bad square and then you came up with that pattern. So that's probably good guidance for studying chess, that although every position is unique, it's still the same patterns that you recognize. So the more plans or patterns that you know, the more it just kind of comes to you when you see something familiar. So it's more of a memory thing sometimes than it is this whole reasoning. That's kind of the author's point. I agree with some aspects of it. Sometimes, of course, it definitely depends on the position, but yeah, so queen e8, I'm sure it's a pretty good move as well. Actually, I wouldn't think that there's anything wrong with it, and I don't think it gives any advantage to white. But I do like bishop to e8. Rook c8 is also pretty good. So I think both of them are good. But bishop e8 is sort of the very classic move to just bring it over
Fascinating.
to h5. So the game itself got very tactical after this. Um, but yeah, the takeaway is that when you look at the position, you can recognize what you know. So maybe if you recognize that it was a French defense position, then maybe somewhere in your mind you would remember this bishop maneuver pop up. And yeah, it sometimes comes to activating your memory, but it also could not be in your memory if you don't play the French yourself. So that's that's why you kind of, the more different positions you see, the more it will kind of it will show up.
Hmm.
But from there, of course, after you find that good move, like bishop e8, we didn't need any justification for it. But from there, you need to evaluate and calculate, which is, a whole skill in itself. But I I think it's an interesting thought process thing. And maybe final position for today. So what do
Damn
you think
it.
about this one?
The king moved to g7. Otherwise, I would have said g7. Check. Okay.
Yeah, I would be perfect actually. Just made them too.
How about. No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Okay, knight e2 with the plan knight f4, knight h5. Or,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
all
cool.
you need is just one good move. And whether the knight on h5 is gonna checkmate or not doesn't matter, because that's where it belongs. So knight e2 is the best move, and it's actually true. Maybe some would also be tempted with rook e7, but the thing is, it doesn't add like there's no follow-up other than just bringing the knight to e2 anyways, so you would rather just keep it there because the bishop is not a threat.
Yeah.
So knight e2, perfect. Black played
Gave it check.
check, but that didn't help because soon enough the knight came to h5. They even threw in rook e4 first, which was not super necessary, but it works. And there was a mate that was found after that because g7 and wherever the king moves, there's queen g6 checkmate. So throughout all of this, did you notice that black was a piece up?
No.
Well, that's great. So that means you looked for a move without thinking of
How
the
do I get
overall
the piece
position,
back? Uh-huh.
which is exactly what I wanted us to do in today's lesson. So so yeah, all you need is just a good move. And sometimes that's the best approach, especially if you're playing faster time controls. I mean, that's what you have to do. But even in classical chess, I feel it is better to come up with a variation that gets justified by the general principles of the position than first try to use these principles and rules that you know to find the right move, because I feel like that's not how you usually think in chess. So overall, there's many ways to think in chess, and I don't think every person thinks in the same way. But I thought this concept of this book was interesting, especially, yeah, applicable to both online games and classical games, where you sometimes have to think about a move first and justify it later. So I think switching to this mode of learning can sometimes be beneficial rather than getting lost in rules and exceptions and structures like we're initially taught to think. But I think both approaches are pretty good. So what do you think about the approach and do you think like that usually?
You explained this very well. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You also said like you also gave your points of like there's a couple of positions where this just doesn't make sense, but there are positions where it can make sense and where you should just go for the move and then think second, because when you make the or when you have the idea, you don't, I mean, let's be clear here. When you're playing a game, so you don't have to make the move and then think later and then go, oh, I just blundered the
Oh,
piece.
I'm actually lost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
great.
Thank you so much, Svitlana. That was great.
Thank you, Arnie.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.